Hey everyone, this is Ms. Banuelos, and today we're just going to go over part one of reviewing your financial aid award letter. We're going to go over cost of attendance and what to pay attention to when determining a realistic cost of attendance. Many of you have already spoken to a counselor and have looked at your own financial aid award letters, and this presentation is meant to just support you with that process. And if you haven't spoken to a counselor, this is going to give you some foundational information so that you know what questions to ask in the upcoming weeks. Before we jump into the cost of attendance, I wanted to take a step back and just look at the big picture here. For the last 4 years, you've attended a college prep institution, and this institution, Environmental Charter High School, has prepared you to continue your post-secondary path. So after you get this high school diploma, the goal is for you to continue on some sort of post-secondary journey. For some of you, that might mean that you enroll at a 2-year community college. For others, you might jump into a vocational program or an art program. And many of you will end up enrolling at a 4-year university. Ultimately, whatever post-secondary path you choose, I am going to be proud of you. As long as you have a plan, as long as you know that you're following your path, that's all that matters. So at the end of the day, if you choose a 2-year school, a 4-year school, a vocational program, it doesn't matter as long as you pursue something after high school. As you're deciding what your post-secondary plans will be, keep in mind that the longer you go to school and the more degrees you attain, the higher your yearly income is going to be. And this is just a general trend, right? It's looking at degrees overall. It's not looking into specific majors. And as we all know, some majors lead to higher incomes in the professional world than other majors. And that's research that you probably already have done. Another thing to keep in mind is that most of the jobs available nowadays require some sort of college or degree. So when you look at this bar graph and you look at the last bar, 2018, you can see that 62% of the jobs available right now require some sort of college or a degree. And the general trend here is that as time passes, the jobs available for workers with post-secondary education, whether that's some college or some sort of degree, keeps increasing over time. So what does this mean? This just means the more education you have, the higher chances you have of finding a job in the future. Okay, so here we go. So the next 9 slides are just going to focus on cost of attendance. We will take a look at UC Merced's cost of attendance and Cal State Dominguez Hills. So you will be able to find cost of attendance on most financial aid award letters. In some cases, you'll have to go searching for that cost of attendance in the school's website, but in most situations, the cost of attendance will appear at the very top of your financial aid award letter. The financial aid award letter that you see on the screen is a very general financial aid award letter that most institutions use nowadays. You'll be able to see the cost of attendance at the top, then grants and scholarships, net costs. You'll have some work study options and some loan options that follow. And then at the very end, you'll have the family contribution amount. So next, we are just going to focus on the very top of this financial aid award letter, and that's the estimated cost of attendance section. You'll see that in this section, many different costs are broken down. So you'll see the tuition and fees cost, housing and meals, books and supplies, transportation, and other educational costs. And then I went ahead and copy and pasted UC Merced's cost of attendance for the next academic school year. We're going to take a look at this cost of attendance and break it down and see if there are any ways that we could reduce this cost of attendance. The first thing I want you to focus on is the on-campus column, the off-campus column, and the at-home column. For this example, if you are an ECHS student who will decide to commit to UC Merced next fall, you will be focusing only on the on-campus column. So that means that when you're looking at your total cost of attendance for UC Merced, you're probably looking at a number close to $37,000 per year. Now you may be wondering if that number could be cut in any way, if you can save some money, or if you can make different decisions to lower the cost of attendance. And we're going to look into that in the next few slides. Okay, so I made a few notes on this image so that it would be a little bit easier to read. The first thing I want to point you to is to only focus on the information that is inside of the red box. We are only going to look at the cost of attendance for living on campus, which means that you will be living in a dorm room and you will be buying a meal plan from the institution. The second thing I want you to focus on is the word direct. So you see it pop up 3 times: direct fees, direct room and board, and direct health insurance. What this means is that you will have to directly pay the institution this money. So you will have to directly pay UC Merced for tuition, for room and board, and for health insurance. The other cost on here, the books and supplies, the transportation, and personal expenses, all of those are indirect costs, which means that you do not pay the institution this money. Okay, so now the third thing we're going to focus on are the different costs on this slide. So the first cost is the fees, and that's basically another word for tuition, or the classes that you're going to take that you have to pay for during that academic school year. The second cost is the room and board cost, and that's what you're going to pay for your dorm room and for your meal plan for that academic school year. Books and supplies, those are just the books that you're going to use, the supplies you're going to use to be prepared for your classes. Transportation, that's either the flights that you're going to take to get to your campus or to get back home, or the miles that you're going to drive, the parking permit that you're going to pay for. So all those costs that come with transportation. Personal expenses are just the expenses that you're going to have as a human. You might need a toothbrush, you might need shampoo, you might need new clothes, you might need winter clothes. So that's just personal expenses. Health insurance, well, every student is required to have health insurance on campus. The cool thing is that if you already have health insurance with your family, you can waive that fee. So right there, you'll see that it's $2,400. And if you have health insurance with your family, then you don't have to pay that amount and you can waive it. And that gives you a total amount. And for UC Merced, we see that that total comes out to $37,666. Okay, and lastly, the fourth thing I want us to focus on is the room and board cost. So take a look at that cost. It's $18,267. Now this is an average cost. So what does that mean? That means that some folks will pay more for housing and some folks will pay less for housing. And on the next slide, we're going to take a closer look at on-campus housing and see if we can cut some of that cost. Okay, so now we're just going to look at room and board. And what I did was go on UC Merced's website and look up their housing cost and their meal plan so that we can take a closer look at their costs. Let's look at the table at the top left corner. So now you're looking at on-campus rooms. And if we look at the first column, you're looking at the single, double, triple, and quad room. And then to your right, you'll see the academic price. Now, if you're thinking about getting a single, it's going to cost about $15,000 a year. That means that you have your own room. Now, many of you might need to get a double, triple, or even a quad because your financial aid award letter will not give you enough money for you to pay off for the academic school year. So for this example, I'm going to pretend like I want to save a lot of money. And so I'm going to focus on getting a quad dorm. Now switch over to the table on the bottom right, and now we're looking at meal plans. And you'll be able to see that there are 5 different meal plans, and they all have unlimited swipes, meaning that you'll be able to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. And the only thing that varies is the CAT dollars. I have no idea what CAT dollars are, but as you can see, they range from 300 all the way to 1200. Now, once again, for this example, I will choose the cheapest meal plan, which comes out to $4,600. And when I add up my quad cost and my meal plan cost, I get $15,317. And that's if I'm making that sacrifice and choosing, once again, the cheapest meal plan, and I'm choosing to live with 3 other roommates. Now, take a look at the yellow post-it at the top right of the screen. On the yellow post-it, you'll see the standard room and board total. So this is what my financial aid award letter told me my housing was going to cost. They said it was going to cost $18,267. And by choosing a quad room and choosing the cheapest meal plan, I was able to save $3,000. My total cost came out to be $15,317. Okay, let's return back to UC Merced's cost of attendance. And as you can see, I went ahead and I added the actual cost for room and board. It's inside that rectangle, and it should say $15,317. And I was able to subtract those $3,000 and come up with a more accurate cost of attendance for UC Merced. And as you can see, it's $34,716. So by doing some research and making a few sacrifices, we were able to lower our cost of attendance by about $3,000. Additionally, we haven't even looked at the health insurance, and if you have health insurance with your family, you might be able to cut that cost as well. So overall, I just wanted you to know that this cost of attendance is an estimate. And if you play around with some of these numbers, you can probably lower it by a few $1,000s. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at Cal State Dominguez Hill's cost of attendance. And for this example, let's just assume that you will be a full-time undergraduate student living at home. So we're going to ignore the last 2 columns, the on-campus column and the off-campus column, and only focus on the commuter / living with parent column. Keep in mind that the commuter / living with parent column gives you a total cost of $16,912. Now this is a little bit misleading. And once again, just like our previous example, I went ahead and made a few notes on this table. This table looks very similar to the UC Merced example. So once again, we have tuition and fees, books, miscellaneous personal expenses, transportation, meals and housing, and loan fee average. And then they give you a total at the bottom. Since you're going to be living at home, the only direct cost we see here is tuition and fees. Now for book costs, I'm not going to touch that cost because I'm going to assume that that's what I'm going to need for that academic school year. Now as I move down the table and look at miscellaneous and personal expenses, I can probably cut that number down significantly because I will be living at home. And as for transportation, well, that's going to vary depending on my situation. So if I'm taking public transportation to school, that probably will be cheaper than driving my own car and purchasing that parking permit. Now, here's my favorite part about this activity. The meals and housing cost is very deceiving. It has it on here that you would be paying $5,246 to live at home. Now, realistically speaking, many of you who go to school and live at home will probably not pay any rent, and your parents will continue to provide for you. So we can already eliminate that entire cost. So as you can see, I went ahead and crossed it out and just put a 0 next to it. And then I went ahead and subtracted that $5,246 from my initial total, and it gave me a new total. And now I'm looking at $11,666 to attend this university. And keep in mind that that new cost of attendance, $11,666, also includes your personal expenses and transportation costs. So ultimately, that cost is significantly lower if you're living at home and you're not going to spend as much on your personal expenses and transportation as Cal State Dominguez Hills is estimating. Okay, so we just looked at two examples, UC Merced and Cal State Dominguez Hills, and we were able to play with that cost of attendance. Now what I want you to do is do the same for your own financial aid award letters and figure out what works best for your family. And this is our final slide, ways to cut cost of attendance, and we went over some of these with the previous examples. Go ahead and pause the video so that you can take your time and read over a few of these examples. Obviously there are many more, but I just put some that if we were in a classroom we would share out loud. The ones in red font are the ones that will give you more savings. So for example, choosing a dorm room with more roommates will save you some money. Purchasing a cheaper meal plan if available will save you some money. Taking some summer courses at a community college will save you some money as well, because those units at a community college come out to be cheaper than the units at a university. Also, don't forget to waive your health insurance fee if you and your family already have health insurance. And lastly, living off campus during your second, third, and fourth year of college will ultimately end up saving you some money, because generally living off campus is cheaper than living on campus. And that brings us to the end of part one. Part two, we'll go over financial aid awards, and we'll look into the grants, the scholarships, and the loan types that are available for you, and determine which loans are the best ones and which ones are the ones that you should probably avoid when paying for your education.